Welcome to OAC Health Talks. I'm Joe Naglowski, President and CEO of the Obesity Action Coalition, and we are excited for you to join us for this educational series that dives deeper into specific health topics that we know are important to you and the OAC community. Health Talks are designed to empower you while providing straightforward, practical answers and insights from trusted experts. So let's dive into today's topic.
Whole Child Healthy. Cultivating a positive family culture for kids of every size. I'm Jill Castle, and I'm the author of Kids Thrive at Every Size. And today, I'm hoping that I can help you evaluate your own family culture, consider the family and individual behaviors you may want to shift to improve your family culture, and also alleviate some of the guilt and pressure you may be experiencing about your child's eating, their size, or even your own parenting. So this is me after my freshman year of college. I came home, walked in the front door of my childhood home, gave my dad a big hug, and he said to me, "Wow, Jill, your face is so round." Well, that stopped me dead in my tracks. I had never had a comment before from my family about my appearance or my size or my shape. We were always a family that teased each other, but the teasing was never personal. It was situational. And as I remember this incident, it's a memory that comes up quite often. I am now in my mid to late 50s, and I still think about this moment in time where I felt a distinct level of embarrassment, a little bit of shame, and a sense of, wow, there's something wrong with me and I need to change. What I was really feeling was a sense of shame. When we are thinking about our own children and parenting, I'm a mother of 4 grown children now, but there was always a sense of, wow, the world is potentially a dangerous place for our children. If you're raising a child who doesn't fit into society's definition of average or mid-size, for instance, if your child is in a larger body or even a smaller body, you may especially feel like the world is a dangerous place for your child. Today, I'm going to hopefully help you think about your family and the environment that your child is growing up in and how you can optimize that culture, if you will, so that your child feels good about themselves regardless of their size. Because we know there are many truths to our bodies. Number one, so much of our body size is determined by genetics. Yes, lifestyle behaviors influence our physical health, but it also influences our emotional well-being. And lastly, as parents, I think it's important to recognize that we have a choice about how we support our children's self-concept, their self-esteem, and their sense of worthiness. One of the things I know personally, and I also know this from raising my own children and working with numerous families and their children, is that shame can get in the way of self-esteem and worthiness. And this can certainly impact and influence health behaviors. So what is the difference between guilt and shame? This is just a quick refresher. Guilt is doing something wrong. Shame is really being something wrong. So when it comes to children, it may be that a child is thinking, I feel guilty for ignoring my friend on purpose. I feel guilty for sneaking cookies. Regret, wishing things were different, wanting to repair situations that happened, oftentimes and mostly do follow guilty feelings. But being something wrong is very different. Being something wrong can be feeling like I'm bigger than everyone in my class, or I'm bad because I like cookies. Feelings of worthlessness powerlessness, and a desire to disappear, defend, or avoid often follow feelings of shame. What triggers shame? In families, shame can be triggered by negative feedback from others, parents, siblings, extended family members, character evaluations. You're so lazy, or you don't like to do this or that. These evaluations about who someone is can certainly trigger a sense of shame. Teasing, bullying, bullying from siblings, obviously bullying online or from peers or even from family members. All of these things can trigger shame within a child. We know from the research that guilt and shame are felt by age 8 by most children. So this doesn't mean that you can never give yourself or give your child feedback. And it doesn't mean you can't give your child negative feedback. But what it does mean is that when we do give our children feedback, we want to be careful that we're targeting the behavior and not the person. So, for example, when I work with families, oftentimes this issue of a child sneaking food or eating extra food when it's not ideal for them to do so comes up in our conversations. And I'm often advising families to make sure that they're separating the behavior, sneaking food, from the person or even from the food itself. Because sneaking food is taking something without asking for permission. It's not you're a sneaker and you're bad. It's the act of sneaking food. And one of the ways that you can respond to that is to say, we have a family policy or we have a family boundary, and it's this: you need to ask before you take. When we target the person or when we target the child, it can be diminishing. And again, this can trigger shame and a lack of self-worth in children. The other thing that I often remember and talk to families about is using the word disappointed. I know in my own children, whenever my husband or I would say, "We're disappointed in you," we knew inherently as parents that this was a loaded word for our kids. Not saying that's a loaded word for every child, but disappointment from parents can really trigger something internal in children as well. Now, none of us are perfect. I'm not perfect either. And kids, thankfully, are super resilient. So we can always apologize and repair whenever we overstep or we accidentally say something to a child rather than target the behavior. We do know from research that too much negative feedback to a child can cause them to numb out with food. They can eat too much to comfort themselves. They can engage in too much screen time, and they can turn towards perfectionism to make themselves feel better. I want to shift here a little bit because I want to start talking about family culture, but I wanted to give you a little bit of a background between guilt and shame because it's going to feed into what we talk about next. What is real health? Well, to me, real health is certainly physical health. So the body is functioning well and can do all the things that it wants or needs to do. But real health is also emotional well-being, this sense of happiness with oneself, this sense of feeling good about who you are in the skin that you're in. And I believe, and I hope that you will believe this too, that healthy doesn't have one size. And especially in children who are growing and developing and changing over time, they really can be healthy throughout their childhood when we help them focus on their lifestyle behaviors. So Whole Child Healthy, which is the title of this talk, is a model I created to emphasize this idea of physical health and emotional well-being. And I believe when we are raising children of any size that we need to be focused on both physical health and emotional well-being. So some of the tenets of this model are that every body is a growing, good body, no matter its size or shape, and that key health behaviors are foundational for all children, regardless of their size. Enjoyment is key to all the things we do, especially for children, and we want to celebrate enjoyment on all levels, including eating, movement, family connection, and this key idea of enjoyment is key to physical health and emotional well-being. Intuition, mindfulness, autonomy, these are all learned skills in childhood, and they support a child's overall health and the development of healthful behaviors. And here's where you come into play. You're the role model, and you're also the gatekeeper, and you're the key influencer of your child's health and well-being, and you should be fully empowered to feed and lead your child to health. And last, children should be respected, engaged, and protected on all levels. So how do we achieve whole child healthy? Well, I believe we do it through 8 pillars of wellness. You can see it includes food, eating, feeding, movement, sleep, screens, family culture, and all of these feed into creating a child who has love for themselves. These are the 8 pillars of wellness, and today we're going to focus on family culture and how you can cultivate a positive family culture for all the members of your family. So what is family culture? It is the set of values, practices, ideas, and attitudes of your family. And your home environment and the dynamic between all the people in your family really do sum up and feed into this idea of family culture. We know that family culture is woven into your daily living and lifestyle behaviors. In a nutshell, family culture is who your family is as a family. And it is the most important and influential ethos your child will experience as they grow up, and it will feed into how they feel about themselves, their health behaviors, and their sense of safety and belonging. So I just want to pause here for a minute and just ask you to reflect. What are you noticing about your family's culture around food, around health, around how you talk about bodies, around how you navigate through difficult situations around food, health, eating, and bodies? So when we talk about shame and how it gets triggered within families, especially families with children growing up in larger bodies, we know that there are a few common ways that children can experience shame. Number 1, teasing about size. Even pet names that are meant to be harmless can trigger shame in a child. The second one is sibling bullying. This is name calling or hitting or aggressive maneuvers against a child because of their size. Thirdly, unequal treatment within the family. So that might look like feeding a child different food from the rest of the family. Fourth, too much talk about appearances, size, food, exercise, and health. That doesn't mean you don't talk about those things, but it's the tone, the manner, and the frequency can sometimes, in some children who are sensitive, especially those with larger bodies, this can trigger shame. Unsolicited criticisms from extended family members, grandparents, aunts and uncles who might be criticizing your child's size, their eating behaviors, their food choices, and when that happens, if parents don't speak up in defense of their children, that can cause harm as well. And then last, shame can get triggered within families when parents are super critical about their own bodies or other people's bodies, and of course about their child's body. So what can you do differently, or what can families do differently? So the first recommendation I have is to adopt what I call spectrum thinking. So we know we have binary thinking, which is this idea that things are either good or bad, their food is healthy or toxic, bodies are fit or fat. These are just two dynamics or two black and white ways of thinking that eliminate the gray or the nuance that is often very much present in all things about life. We know that absolutes, this binary thinking, can be detrimental to developing minds. On the opposite end of that, or the antidote to that, is spectrum thinking, which is open-minded, inclusive, and encourages curious exploration and flexibility. So whether we're talking about bodies or we're talking about food, we know that the truth is there are endless realities. There's a lot of nuance. There is a lot of gray areas. So as parents and as a family, one of the things you want to do is to avoid labels and characterizations. Toxic junk food or super uber healthy food. These are absolute characterizations, and food can be a lot in between those two areas. Also, you don't want to judge a book by its cover. And lastly, there is a healthy person in every child. And so the possibilities and the spectrum of what things can be related to bodies and food and eating and other choices, lifestyle choices, is broad. And we want to adopt that attitude of broadness and flexibility so that our children adopt it as well. Secondly, accept your child and their size. As I mentioned, size, shape, and body fat have a genetic basis. 40 to 50% of children have a likelihood of inheriting the tendency for roundness and size, and in some cases up to 85%. While you cannot control the genes, you do have influence over your child's environment that they're growing up in and how you cultivate healthy lifestyle behaviors. I suggest you do emphasize that all bodies are good bodies. Children cannot hear that message enough, in my opinion. Also, focus on their inner qualities and the characters or the characteristics that your child has or embodies. And lastly, always respect and listen to your child. I think that children who are heard feel more self-worth and worthiness than children who are not heard. Thirdly, I believe all families should adopt a zero tolerance policy for sibling bullying. So siblings who hit, name call, or tease based on a sibling's size or body weight can cause quite a bit of harm to the child who's experiencing that. So some of the ways that you can respond as a parent who might have this dynamic happening in your family is to say things like, "We don't put each other down in this family. It's a zero tolerance policy." Or you can say, "It's wrong to tease or bully someone based on what they look like, especially your sibling." You might also inquire how that child might have been feeling in the moment, why they chose to bully their sibling, and find other ways to help that child handle their feelings. Fourthly, don't tease. Any teasing related to appearance, size, eating style, food preferences or choices can be and can cause harm to a child. Children who experience body shaming from family members are likely to have poor self-esteem and mistrust of their family. Teasing or criticizing any person about their size worsens their health, and we have research that shows that. For children, size-based teasing or bullying worsens their quality of life. So, what do we do instead? Find positive ways to connect. Spending time with children, doing other activities, taking a walk, reading a book, just having a conversation or sharing time watching a television show can all be a positive way to connect with your child. When children are having tough emotions, feelings, feel isolated, or feelings of loss, you can coach them through those feelings so that they can learn how to communicate their feelings, but also how to cope with them in positive ways. Share positive family meals. So we know that eating together builds connection and cohesiveness, especially when meal times are pleasant and engaging. The goal for all families is to have as many family meals or snacks together as possible. One of the things that can happen, though, that I've noticed is that families will feed a child who may be in a larger body differently than they are feeding a child in a mid-size or smaller body. This can look like restricting second helpings of food for the child who has a larger body or who is more food-focused. It can look like disallowing treats for the larger child. And it can also look like too much table talk about food, health, and bodies, with the intention to change or motivate different behaviors around food. Instead, I suggest that you have the same food for the entire family, that you don't feed your differently sized child differently from the rest of the family. Have conversations that talk about what the day was like, what's going on in the world, the wins and the challenges of the day, and allow each family member to share something at the table. If you are having struggles with your child around food or eating or their health, my suggestion is to not talk about those at the table, but to find another time in the day where you can talk about these things in private and support your child so that they feel heard and listened to and not shamed. Another way to improve the family culture is to express gratitude for your own body. So parental dieting, talking about food, criticizing your own size in front of your children can lead to negative eating behaviors. We know that adults who experienced their own parents dieting or their own parents being dissatisfied with their body or who were encouraged to diet themselves report a significantly higher BMI later in life. And we know that fathers can have equal impact as mothers, but according to the research, it seems that mothers have more impact on their daughters, especially when they self-criticize or show body dissatisfaction or dieting behaviors in front of them. Instead, you want to talk positively about your body and all the things it can do. Birthing a child, walking, running, exercising, whatever you choose to do to move your body, celebrating that your body can move in the way that you want it to. Bouncing back from injury or illness, or being grateful that your body can do the daily tasks of living and caring for your family. Last, You want to advocate for your child. And sometimes in this world, there's so many challenges around advocating for children, especially if their size deviates from what society considers healthy or normal. Family members are a common source of negative comments, often about a child's size, how you're feeding that child, and the parenting skills that you embody. It is tough. Sometimes parents and families really feel like they're under the magnifying glass, and it can be very hurtful, not only for the child, but it can be hurtful for the parents too, who are trying their best to raise a family that's healthy, but also raise a child who feels good about themselves and participates in positive lifestyle behaviors that can help not only their physical health, but also how they feel about themselves. So I encourage you to advocate on behalf of your child, because children notice when they're not being advocated for. One of the ways you can respond is to say, there's a lot of pressure in this world to be a certain size and to look a certain way. I'm raising my child to love themselves for who they are and to show respect for others in the same way. Even the simple act of modeling advocacy for your child gives your child a pathway for handling tricky situations in the future. So, my hope for you today is that after listening to this information about building a family culture that is positive and supportive and accepting for your child, you will be able to step back a little bit and evaluate how your own family and how you are doing. And to also think about some of the behaviors that you may want to shift to improve your family culture. And last, I hope that you are or will experience less guilt and shame for yourself about your child's size, their eating, or your parenting. I believe that when you feel good about yourself, you do good for yourself. And the goal is to help our children feel good about themselves so they do participate in these positive, wonderful lifestyle behaviors that not only contribute to their physical health, but they really do help support their emotional well-being as well. Thank you so much for listening. Let's stay in touch, and here's how you can connect with me outside of this presentation.
Wow, that was a great health talk. It's your support that makes this program possible and free for everyone to join. If you'd like to support our education efforts, please make a donation today. Together, we can make a lasting impact and create a more informed and empowered community.